Hello, everyone, and welcome to the official Global Wars UK preview. I'm Dave the Mark, and I'm joined by none other than Andy Quildan of Revolution Pro Wrestling to look ahead to what is one of the biggest weekends of wrestling in all of European pro wrestling. How are you, Andy?
Very good. Very tired. Always, whenever we speak, I'm tired, but it's for good reason because we've got a great show coming to the Doncaster Dome this Saturday, and as you alluded to, Dave, it's a great weekend to be a professional wrestling fan in the United Kingdom because, of course, we're going to be helping out with Royal Quest at Crystal Palace on Sunday as well.
And it comes at the end of an incredible week for British professional wrestling because we saw Zack Sabre Jr. crowned the IWGP Heavyweight Champion this week, and we get to see him for his very first appearance with that belt this Saturday at Global Wars, and then again on Sunday at Royal Quest. How much are you looking forward to him versus Robbie X?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite appropriate, isn't it, that Zack Sabre Jr.'s first appearance inside a professional wrestling ring with the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship is at a Revolution Pro Wrestling show. Zack's made no secret of the fact that he will keep coming to Revolution Pro Wrestling and that he will do everything he can to be a flag bearer for Revolution Pro Wrestling. And I think that we're very honored and privileged to be in that position to see one of the best professional wrestlers in the world operate on a semi-regular basis. So, you know, all we can do is have thanks for Zack, but I'm very much looking forward to hearing the homecoming that he receives. And it's going to be very well deserved. And of course, anyone who was at our anniversary show or saw it on demand will know that it was just crazy, the reception he received after winning the G1 championship. And I can only imagine the G1 champion, the G1 climax, I should say. And I can only imagine how crazy it's going to be, the reception that he receives walking into the Doncaster Dome as the new IWGP World Champion. So very few are more deserving than Zack Sabre Jr. But obviously, when you look at people who are deserving of an opportunity, you need to look at Robbie X. And for Robbie X, this match presents an opportunity, a real opportunity. You saw the speculation online that Robbie X would be the X in TMDK. Of course, it wound up being Oiwa. And as a result, Robbie X was left in the cold, so to speak, and it was just it was almost that double kick in the teeth. It seemed like it was going to be announced that Robbie X was the new member of TMDK on the same day that he was competing against TMDK's Robbie Eagles, and of course, it was in that match where Robbie Eagles said, "Listen, I know that you're not, you're going to be disappointed." That you're not the guy, but I was still sent here on a scouting mission, and the front man wants to take a look up close and personal to you. So let this be a challenge and let this be a test for you at Global Wars. It's going to be Zack Sabre Jr. versus Robbie Eagles, and if Zack Sabre Jr. is impressed by Robbie Eagles, he may well extend that invite to TMDK to Robbie X, and we may well be a part of wrestling history. You know, we were there, us Revolution Pro Wrestling fans, when the United Empire formed. Will we be there when Robbie X joins TMDK? All of that aside, it's going to be a fantastic professional wrestling match. Stylistically interesting and intriguing. The high flying of Robbie X versus a technical prowess of Zack Sabre Jr. A real styles clash, but as they say, styles make matches.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always think that Robbie X is a really underrated technical wrestler as well. And it'll be really interesting to see him tested against arguably the greatest technical wrestler in anywhere in the world in Zack Sabre Jr. And whilst Robbie X is looking to impress the frontman, the IWGP Heavyweight Champion has an opportunity to impress the president of New Japan Pro Wrestling because we also welcome Hiroshi Tanahashi to the Doncaster Dome, teaming with Leon Slater as part of the Team Zosiah versus what is effectively Team Connor Mills with Jay Joshua and Gabe Kidd. What an incredible array of talent we are about to showcase to everybody in Doncaster.
Yeah, I mean, this is another one of those where, you know, as I'm sure you'll see as we go through the card, every single match presents something a little bit different. And it's each got its own merit, and it's each exciting as a thing before it, and it doesn't matter what your preference in professional wrestling is. I guarantee there's going to be something for you on this card. But this is, you can expect fireworks in this one. It's going to be all kinds of crazy. And I think very appropriate that Zazaya and Leon Slater are teaming with the ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi. Of course, it's a very newsworthy match in and of itself, given the fact that Tanahashi has since announced that he will be retiring on January 4th, 2026. So in many ways, you can bookmark this as a part of history. It's a start of Hiroshi Tanahashi's retirement tour. And Tanahashi means so much to Revolution Pro Wrestling. He was the second wrestler from New Japan Pro Wrestling to come into RevPro. He came in Uprise in 2013. Very few people who were there will forget the image of Hiroshi Tanahashi, the best wrestler of the generation at the time in 2013, alongside the best wrestler of a generation before, Bret the Hitman Hart. And you know, I wish they could have met each other in their primes, because it would have just been fantastic. But to see them side by side was just fantastic. So Tanahashi is very embedded in the history of Revolution Pro Wrestling, of course, a former British heavyweight champion as well. Yeah, I mean, what a coup for Zazoya to have got Tanahashi on his side for this contest, and an opportunity for Mr. President to take a look up close and personal to both Zazoya and Leon Slater. And in their way will be three men with chips on their shoulder, angry young men. You know, Jay Joshua, who's been nothing but impressive in each and every showing. He's one of those guys we say about, you know, people coming to Revolution Pro Wrestling with reputations. And very much when you come in for the first time, you know, it's just very much a case of, we want to take a look at you. We want to see how you get on. We're going to see how you do, how you compete against the best we have to offer. You know, there's no tune-up matches. You know, you go straight in at the deep end, and Jay Joshua went straight in at the deep end, and he absolutely swam, just impressing people all over the place. And he's aligned himself with Connor Mills, who believes he's deserving of all these opportunities, and you can't blame him. And of course, the outspoken Gabe Kidd. So it's going to be a real interesting combination, a real a dynamic, explosive combination. I think they match each other perfectly, and yeah, I'm very excited for this one. And I think it's going to be one of those matches that just has people on the edge of their seats making noise throughout.
It's such a celebration of professional wrestling, isn't it? With, you know, Hiroshi Tanahashi as the ace, with these new young upstarts in Leon Slater and Zazaya who have the potential to one day be aces themselves. And then you've got the spoilers of Gabe Kidd and Connor Mills and Jay Joshua, who, as you say, have absolute chips on their shoulder. Fascinating that you say about Jay Joshua coming into Rev Pro and being tested against the very best. He faced Ricky Knight Jr. in his first match, and that seems to have been a role that Ricky's had a lot this year, testing out new faces in Rev Pro. But this Saturday, Ricky gets a big match, and he gets a match that we know he's been clamoring for a long time, when he finally gets his hands on Michael Oku in a #1 contenders match for the Undisputed British Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, I mean, this is as big as it gets from you know, both sides really, because look, Ricky Knight Jr. He of course was the undisputed British heavyweight champion. The championship reign didn't go as he would have liked due to injury. We've spoken time and time again about the weight, the pressure on your shoulders. You remember Will Ospreay when he was a champion? He said those words, "I'm tired," you know. And it's not about it's very hard to kind of explain, but it's really one of those things whereby every single person, until you've been in that situation, you don't know. And I've spoken to Will a lot about that situation he was in. Every single person was gunning for him. The eyes of a wrestling world were looking at him. Every single person wanted that match with Will Ospreay, and it wears you down. And the second you win that undisputed British heavyweight championship is different than the chase. It's very different than the chase, you know. And Ricky Knight Jr. found that out firsthand. And the fact that obviously he was nursing a broken wrist, which he was fighting through, and then rushed back from too quickly. You know, when he got his championship rematch or his championship opportunity against for the championship he never actually lost, he'd rushed back too quickly from that, and then that wound up putting him on the sidelines for another 3 months. So, and then it took him a little while to get his rhythm back following that. And whilst all that was going on in the background, there was a meteoric rise of a man called Michael Oku. And all of this combined has led to what Michael Oku termed as a jealousy from Ricky Knight Jr. And Ricky Knight Jr. himself has said, you know what, Mike? Yeah, I was jealous of you, but you were petrified of me. And Ricky Knight Jr., look, you can look at the evidence. He has got some supporting evidence. Look at the last time they met. The only time they ever met in singles competition was in front of no fans. It was at the Portsmouth School of Wrestling, in our empty arena tapings, Epic Encounters shows, and there was a very questionable finish to that contest where Connor Mills pushed Ricky Knight Jr. off the top rope. And Michael Oku didn't see, but he was able to capitalize on that opening and get the 1, 2, 3. And straight in the aftermath of that match, when emotions were still running high, Michael Oku promised Ricky Knight Jr. another match. 4 years on, that hasn't materialized. And the only interactions they've had have been in things like the Revolution tag matches that we've seen many times, and we've seen it in Revolution Rumbles. And those situations have often seen Michael Oku eliminating Ricky Knight Jr. from behind, furthering RKJ's cause or thought process that Oku is scared of him. And we may well have seen signs of that over the last few weeks, but I think this past Sunday in Southampton put to bed any doubts in the fans' mind, any doubts in Michael Oku's mind, because he called out Ricky Knight Jr., he stood up to him, and he sent him packing. And I think that if you look at the week prior to that, at the 229, it wasn't looking good for Michael Oku at all, and I think that the playing field mentally may well have been evened. We know physically it's going to be RKJ all night long, but listen, that's what Michael Oku has made a career out of by overcoming these odds. And he's got to overcome some real odds this Saturday in Doncaster. Now, one thing that I think is very important to state is both men want that undisputed British Heavyweight Championship back in the worst way possible. And the winner of this contest will be, as you alluded to, will become the #1 contender for that gold, and will compete against whoever wins our main event. And the tentative date for that will be Uprising, December 21st at York Hall, Bethnal Green. Now, one big thing about this is that, and I guess it's almost the elephant in the room when it comes to Michael Oku. We know about all the speculation in the summer. We know about all the drama leading up to the 12-year anniversary show and the speculation regarding Michael Oku's future. And make no mistake, he's said publicly as well, he doesn't know how many times, he said it on Sunday in Southampton, doesn't know how many times he's going to be able to stand in front of a Southampton crowd. So you can't ever take an opportunity to see Michael Oku compete for granted. But in addition to that, Michael Oku has said he's not going anywhere until he gets another opportunity, another chance at that undisputed British Heavyweight Championship. So is this an end game for Michael Oku? If Michael Oku doesn't win this contest against Ricky Knight Jr. on Saturday, will this potentially be one of the last times we see him in a Revolution Pro Wrestling ring? If Michael Oku is victorious, then that raises questions about what happens if he doesn't win when he gets a shot at the championship. There's so many questions, but it shows you the level that Michael Oku wants to get to. He wants that championship again, and he will do anything to get to it. And he believes in his heart of hearts he can be that champion again. But to do that, he has to get through a man who wants it just as badly. He has to get through RKJ. And as we said, we spoke about that, the jealousy perhaps RKJ had of Michael Oku, looking at Michael Oku's championship reign in contrast to his own championship reign. And Ricky Knight Jr. will be wanting to capture that championship or recapture that championship, and he'll be looking to right the wrong of his previous reign. And he will be looking to kind of almost get back on track. And as you say, for many times, including this past week in Southampton, but we've seen it against so many wrestlers, RKJ has been the measuring stick, the welcome committee, if you will, for Revolution Pro Wrestling. And he's been in that position for a reason. And I'm not sure it's a reason that he likes, but he's in that position because, you know, if you like, it's because of how respected he is in the locker room. And if you can get through a match with RKJ and you can survive and you want to come back for more, that tells you something about your character, right? But I feel that Ricky Knight Jr. feels that it's because of that. It's because of his willingness to compete against anyone at any given time on any kind of notice. He feels he's been overlooked for the big opportunities, you know, because he's too busy being a company man. And that's kind of left him with that chip on the shoulder. So again, there's so many different elements to this one. It's a combustible situation. It's very, very rare we get these opportunities to see two UK talents, you know, in what can be termed as a dream match. Because really, who follows Revolution Pro Wrestling, that is what this one is. And you think about Ricky Knight Jr., you think about Michael Oku, you think about their roles in Revolution Pro Wrestling over the past 4 years, and you would assume that they've met time and time and time and time again. But no, this is the first time in front of fans, only the second time in history, not just in Revolution Pro Wrestling, in any promotion, anywhere. This is only the second time these two will meet in singles competition, the first time with fans. So it's going to be a special, special matchup. And do not let the fact that this is Global Wars, you know, and if this isn't a international talent versus a UK talent, you know, don't let that fool you. These guys are going to go all out to steal the show. They're absolutely worthy of their position on this card. It's a Revolution Pro Wrestling show. This is one of the biggest RevPro dream matches. This is one of the matches that the eyes of the wrestling world should be on. There isn't a more appropriate stage than Global Wars UK this Saturday.
It is remarkable to think that none of us fans have ever seen this match before. And it is, I think, arguably, you could say that Ricky Knight Jr. is one of the most aggressive and most front foot wrestlers in professional wrestling. But Michael Oku is one of the best defensive wrestlers anywhere in the world, and that whole kind of strategy and that like you say, that styles clash is so fascinating. And you know, it all goes back to the empty arena shows when Ricky Knight Jr. was the Speed King champion of Southside, and Michael Oku was the Cruiserweight champion. And it's how far they've come in that time. And the Cruiserweight Championship in 2024, going into Global Wars, is such a complex situation also. And we have two huge matches this weekend, which have big ramifications for that championship. The first must be talked about, with Will Caven versus Cameron Kai with the belt on the line.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is one of those matches, isn't it? Many people speculate that Cameron Kai is the uncrowned champion, if you will, much to the chagrin of Will Caven, because he feels, you know, throughout his career, he feels that he's been overlooked, and he's made no mistake of saying that out loud. You look, his first night in, he defeated Michael Oku. He then went on a rampage. He holds pinfalls over Luke Jacobs, Robbie X, you know, a laundry list of opponents. But this was in, you know, his first few weeks, months in Revolution Pro Wrestling, and he called himself a disruptor for a reason. He came in and he shook Revolution Pro Wrestling from its foundations, and he made a lot of doubters believers. But I think he still thinks in his mind that, you know, he's still not getting the respect he deserves, especially now he's the undisputed British Cruiserweight champion, yet everyone's talking about Cameron Kai. You know, and everyone seems to think that Cameron Kai has got the number of Will Caven, and Cameron Kai has kind of proven that on a few separate occasions. But the reality of the situation is, when the championship gold has been on the line, it was Will Caven who took the victory at the Copper Box Arena. It's Will Caven who defeated Cameron Kai in singles competition. Yes, you can put an asterisk next to it. Yes, you can look at the low blow, but you know, Cameron Kai won't want to talk about that, because at the end of the day, Caven was victorious. And again, people speculating that Caven wants no part of Kai, and they're doing it with just cause, shall we say? Because of course it was Will Caven who attacked Cameron Kai at the top of the finals of the British J Cup. He knew that if Cameron Kai were to win that, he would have a date with Destiny guaranteed with Will Caven. Little did he know that Leo Rush, for winner of the British J Cup, would see the situation, would be teaming with Cameron Kai the next day, watch Cameron Kai pin Will Caven pin the champion and stand up and do the right thing and say, hey, listen, I've signed a bout agreement for Global Wars, but I'm going to let Cameron Kai take the championship opportunity and I will face the winner. I'll still be at Global Wars, but I'm going to face the winner of Will Caven and Cameron Kai. I want to face the true undisputed British Cruiserweight champion. And that leads us to Global Wars. Who will that man be? Will it be Cameron Kai or will it be Will Caven? They know each other's game inside out. Anyone who saw their match at 229 will see that. And anyone who saw their interactions in Sheffield will see that. Like I say, they both came out of the Portsmouth School of Wrestling. They both went into the Portsmouth School of Wrestling with very, very different philosophies and hung around with very, very different crowds. However, they know each other very, very well. Should we say, they've sparred with each other, they've trained alongside each other. It's got heated in the training school on many separate occasions between the pair. Just very philosophically different views upon professional wrestling life in general, I guess. Cameron Kai is a lot quieter, a lot more reserved. Will Caven the complete opposite. But you know what they say, opposites attract, and that's what makes these fights so good. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Of course, huge ramifications where Lio Rush is concerned, and obviously, of course, where the undisputed British Cruiserweight Championship is concerned, and a big opportunity for two young wrestlers to announce their arrival on the international wrestling scene.
Absolutely, and then Lio Rush's open challenge was met by Mascara Dorada, and there is a global war which absolutely exemplifies what this event is all about: bringing together two world-travelled wrestlers in a match which I think is going to really blow people.
Yeah, unique first-time matches. That's what Global Wars is all about. Look at Global Wars over the years. Your Heroes versus Ishis, Hero versus Shibata. Like Osprey and Okada. These matches that you just don't get to see anywhere else. And of course, the fight between Lio Rush and Mascara Dorada, two of the most spectacular and gifted pro wrestlers in the entire universe, will be something to behold. And look, Mascara Dorada, hands down, coming off of Fantastica Mania, every single wrestler that I spoke to who competed on that show from the RevPro roster was like, I need to wrestle Mascara Dorada. I need to wrestle Mascara Dorada because he is that good. He's the future of the business in Mexico and wherever he decides to lay his hat as well. Because, I'm sure if he gets some more appearances in AEW under his belt, everyone's going to be talking about Mascara Dorada. He is a very, very real deal at such a young age. He is so talented. And he is the guy that we're going to be looking at as, I guess, the next Mystico. He is that good. And he is someone who's got that magnetic presence about him that draws people in, gets people excited. And you put him against Lio Rush, a man who, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated professional wrestlers in the entire universe. A man who each and every single time, he's just so gifted, so talented. Each and every single time he steps foot in a ring, he just absolutely kills it. And in Revolution Pro Wrestling is no different. He's got such an exceptional body of work in RevPro. The British J-Cup winner, form is on his side. And of course, who can forget that contest just 2 weeks ago at the 229 when he went one-on-one with Leon Slater, defeated the 2023 British J-Cup winner, showed that he is one of the informed wrestlers in Revolution Pro Wrestling. Went back to America. As we record this, he's going to be competing against Shelton Benjamin on Dynamite tonight. He's just signed his new contract with AEW, the wrestling world is Lio Rush's oyster right now, and it's a privilege that he loves the UK so much. He loves Revolution Pro Wrestling so much. He wants to come back. He wants to continue to compete, and he wants to compete against the very best the world has to offer. And Mascara Dorada absolutely ticks that box. It's going to be a unique first-time singles clash. It's going to be a clash you absolutely don't want to miss, and it's going to be a clash that you really want to be there to see live, because I promise you it's going to be one of those matches. Anyone who looks back at the Global Wars of the past will say all the time, I was there, I was there, I was there. You know, this is going to be one of those opportunities to say, I was there when Lio Rush met Masquerada.
It's two of the best cruiserweights in the world competing together for the first time ever, and they're doing it in a Revolution Pro Wrestling ring. And as you say, there is such a deep history in the company of that being the case. Lio Rush representing AEW and Mascara Dorada representing CMLL. But Dorada's not the only CMLL talent that's making the journey over for Global Wars, as we will also see Titan working with Los Ingobernables de Japón faction partner in Hiromu Takahashi against a familiar tag team, which we have not seen tag together for a long time, in JJ Gow and Callum Newman.
Yeah, this is a great match. Many people don't realize Hiromu Takahashi actually had his first ever match outside of Japan in Revolution Pro Wrestling when he competed against Doug Williams at When Thunder Strikes 2013. The very first time we were at York Hall Bethnal Green on the same show as Jushin Thunder Liger. Obviously Takahashi, as he's competed in RevPro since then, obviously, and since joining LIJ as well. But you know, I guess Revolution Pro Wrestling has a special place for Takahashi as well. Of course, he'll be aligning with Teton, his LIJ faction teammate. But it's I mean, it's a great unit for this Global Wars. It's about what Global Wars is all about, isn't it? I mean, in the past, Global Wars has always been about New Japan Pro Wrestling and Revolution Pro Wrestling. I should say Global Wars UK, of course. There was the American version, which was about Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling. But New Japan Pro Wrestling and Rev Pro, it's traditionally been the partnership with Global Wars UK. But you know, since that time, obviously, our partnerships have grown across the wrestling world. And you said we've got some AEW representation. We've got obviously still our great partnership with New Japan. We've got representation from Stardom, which we'll talk about later. And of course, we've got representation from CMLL, whereas we know that about the synergy between CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling as well. And what's really great about all the relationships in this thing, in Global Wars UK, is everyone gets along with each other. So there's synergy across the board. So it means that matches like this are possible. And as you alluded to, LIJ and Teton, just a fantastic, exciting team and a great unit representing LIJ. And as you alluded to, the first time in a long time, we're seeing JJ Gal and Callum Newman team up with one another. And I'm excited about this because I think we're coming up to 2 years since they said that they were going to go their separate ways, concentrate on their singles careers. Of course, Callum Newman's done it in Japan as a member of the United Empire. JJ Gale's been plying his trade in the UK and becoming very much a show stealer and a headliner for Revolution Pro Wrestling and getting the nickname the heart and soul of Revolution Pro Wrestling because he puts his heart and soul into everything apart from being on time. And he's getting a bit of a reputation for that as well. But you know, hi JJ. Anyway, yeah. But he's they both have in their chosen routes developed in many different ways. And if you remember the way they came together in the first place, and it's so cool that all of this is coming to a head. We speak about Oku and RKJ the first time it's happening since our Empty Arena tapings. Really, the rise of RKJ and Oku really started in those tapings as well. They were perhaps the MVPs of those tapings, but perhaps one of the stories which goes untold about those tapings is that's where Will Ospreay competed against JJ Gale. He competed against Callum Newman. Of course, he knew Callum Newman very well as Callum Newman, of course, one of the members of the Ospreay Dojo, the famed Ospreay Dojo, you know, and Newman and Ospreay was very much Callum Newman's mentor. But after Will Ospreay competed with JJ Gale, he was like, hang on a minute, you two guys, your strengths are the other's weakness. So if we put you together, you can almost learn off each other and grow alongside each other. And that's what they did. This whole team was born during this global pandemic, and they grew such a bond as a result of it. And, you know, it's going to be so exciting to see them back together, and it's going to be so great to see them, see how they've improved and how they've improved as a team. And will it be like riding a bike, you know, because obviously the first time we saw them back together in a Revolution Pro Wrestling ring, they were against each other, you know, and that was a year after. So it was almost a year ago, you know. So it's a very, very intriguing and exciting match for a number of reasons. But I think yeah, it's quite poetic in many ways, you know, seeing Gal and Newman back together in Revolution Pro Wrestling. 2 years since saying we're going to grow and as performers individually, but we'll always remain close to one another. You know, it wasn't a traditional tag team breakup. You know, someone stabbed someone in the back. You know, it wasn't one of those. You know, they just I can't say the words. I'm not going to even try. Too late in the day. It's been a busy week, but they decided to part ways, mutually agreed. Okay, it's an easier way of putting it. Yeah, that it's so, you know, there's no bad blood, and they both genuinely wish for best for each other. And it's going to be great to see that reunion this Saturday at the Doncaster Dome.
And it's another first time ever matchup, isn't it? It's just another one on these cards, which really do make Global Wars so special. You spoke about all the different partnerships that Revolution Pro Wrestling has formed, which we're going to get to see in this big celebration on Saturday. That brings us to Stardom representation through Azumi, who faces Kanji in what is also another first time ever contest and a huge test for a woman who has been a big part of Revolution Pro Wrestling the last few years in Kanji.
Yeah, this is what Global Wars is all about. It's about unique first time matches. It's about being able to present something which is exciting for fans of professional wrestling. I stole this term. I was watching UFC from the Sphere. They did the show, and Dana White referred to it as a love letter to Mexico. And I love that terminology, right? And when I look at Global Wars, it's very much our love letter to professional wrestling, you know, because you've got the mix of all these styles. It's fantastic, just fantastic matches up and down the card. But the uniqueness of it, the first timeness, I don't even know if that's a real word, but you know, just all of that stuff combined just makes this a perfect night for pro wrestling. As you said, Dave, you called it a celebration of professional wrestling, and that's what this is. And this is a great example of that. Azumi and Kanji, you know, everyone raves about Azumi, you know, and she's at such a young age as well, you know, so scary how young she is given her talent, you know, and she matches up very well, I believe, against Kanji. And Kanji, for my money, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to upset anyone, Cutthroat Collective. But for my money, Kanji is, I don't want to say it because I feel like I'll get called out by Gideon, I'll get called out, but I feel like Kanji is probably pound for pound the best in the UK right now. And I think that she's been proving that week in, week out. And I think it's a travesty that Kanji's not on a bigger stage and her name's not on more people's lips. And I think that this whole weekend for Kanji is a big opportunity for her to enter people's thought process. And I think that's the way she's going to be looking at this situation. I look at her match against Stephanie Vakur at Fantastica Mania, and it was Fantastica. It's a joke. But it was fantastic. And I know Stephanie Vakur walked away from that match being very, very impressed with Kanji, and I think it's going to be more of the same this weekend. So yeah, like I say, I'm very much looking forward to it. I can't really call what way it's going to go because it's an unknown quantity. When you've got two people who've never met each other before, you never know how it's going to go. But you know, when you've got two people, it's not like it's not a flip of a coin for me though, because you know, when you've got two people of the caliber of that, it's a no-brainer to put them against each other. And I think it's a match that, as soon as it was announced, it's one of those matches that hadn't entered people's thought processes. But then the second it's announced, it's like, oh, there's a match that I need to see, but I didn't know I needed to see. And we're going to find out why on Saturday. I knew as soon as we were told Azumi would be available for us for the show, I knew we needed to match her up with Kanji. Honestly, I just feel that stylistically it's the perfect match. You know, as they say, styles make matches. And this Saturday, Azumi versus Kanji for the very first time, and hopefully not the very last time as well. Because again, another one of those times where we could be saying, I was at the first ever meeting between Azumi and Kanji. You know, the same way we say I was at first ever meeting between Okada and Osprey. You know, and in many times we say I was at the only meeting between. You know, so look at the uniqueness of matches over the years at Global Wars. The main event of the first ever Global Wars was AJ Styles versus Jushin Thunder Liger, a match that only ever happened once, happened at Revolution Pro Wrestling, it happened in Global Wars. That's what we do, and that's what this event is all about. It's about making history, and we'll be making history this Saturday.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of people that leave Doncaster who were Azumi fans who are now Kanji fans. And there'll be people that go into it as big Kanji fans who go away talking about Azumi. And that's exactly what both women will want, because they will pride themselves on and they will look forward to this match so incredibly much, but they will both want to come away the victor. And you alluded to the Cutthroat Collective before, and both women will surely come away, whoever comes away as the victor will have their eyes on the Undisputed Women's Championship match between Mina Shirakawa and Lizzie Evo, a Cutthroat Collective and deserved #1 contender after the recent 229 show we had.
Yeah, well, look, you can say what you like about the Cutthroat Collective, and I often do. You can say what you like about Lizzie Evo, but she is the very real deal. You know, I spoke about Kanji being pound for pound the best. Lizzie Evo's right up there with her. She is someone who is very outspoken, as anyone with ears will know. But she's also someone who's very, very talented. She walked into our weekender GWF, you know, Double Impact weekender back in August. 1 week after winning that huge contest at the Copperbox Arena that very few people will forget. You know, she walked in as an underdog, and she became the GWF Women's Champion. You know, she's looking to become a bit of a belt collector, and she's looking to defeat Mina Shirakawa here, and shock the wrestling world and make all the wrestling headlines. If anyone's capable of doing it, Lizzie Evo most certainly is. And as you say, a deserved winner. She defeated Dani Luna, the former undisputed British Women's Champion. Anyone who knows anything about Dani Luna, anyone who knows anything about the last 18 to 24 months of Dani Luna, knows that she is a very, very tough wrestler for anyone to compete against. Her record is almost impeccable. And Lizzie Evo was able to, without the help, they were there. Make no mistake, Mercedes Blaze and Alex Wins were there. So perhaps mentally you can put something on Dani Luna, knowing that they were there on the outside, but they didn't physically get involved. There were no question marks about it. Lizzie Evo on the night was a better woman. And if she's a better woman, on Saturday, we will be hearing the words "and new." I know for a fact she doesn't want to do it with a Cutthroat Collective. She doesn't want an asterisk next to a victory. She believes in her heart of hearts she's the very best, and she wants to prove it against Mina Shirakawa. And look, I hate to think what would happen in regards to how the Cutthroat Collective would respond to a championship victory for Lizzie Evo. But Lizzie Evo has made it perfectly clear, I'm not just doing it for me, I'm doing it for the Cutthroat Collective. So if they win that championship, if they bring that championship back to RevPro, if you will, you know, the power balance has shifted once more into their hands. But look, it's all if, buts, and maybes, because she's going to have to get past Mina Shirakawa, who's been nothing short of a revelation. She is a very definition of a superstar. I think no one was banking on her defeating Dani Luna at the anniversary show, but she took her by the element of surprise. She was able to take Luna off her game. She was able to submit her in the center of the ring. And again, like I say, she's just got that presence, that aura about her, hasn't she? She makes people look at her. She brings that sense of intrigue, and she's taken those belts on a tour of the world, and she's made no secret of the fact she wants to defeat Lizzie Evo, and she wants to defend the championship belt, the undisputed British Women's Championship, outside of the United Kingdom as well. And you know, that's a very interesting proposition to look forward to as well, if Mina is able to get past Lizzie Evo this Saturday. So whichever way you look at it, however this one shakes out, The result is going to be very interesting. The direction of the women's championship following this contest is going to become very, very interesting. The direction of the women's division after this contest is going to be very, very interesting. This match is as high stakes as they come, and I'm very much intrigued by it, looking forward to it, and excited to be there and experience it live. Because again, I'm sure there's going to be a great atmosphere in the Doncaster Dome. Just that two magnetic personalities and one hell of a professional wrestling match lined up.
Yeah, absolutely so. Mina Shirakawa, she's so charismatic that sometimes people can get caught up in that aura that you say and get caught by surprise at just how accomplished a wrestler she is. And it does feel a little bit like that happened with Danny Luna at the Copper Box. And with the direction of where this may lead with the Cutthroat Collective, win or lose, there's so many fascinating permutations. I can't say the word aura in professional wrestling, though, and not think of Tomohiro Ishii. And that brings us to the final match on the card, the third installment of what will go down as one of the greatest trilogy of matches. Even before we have this third match, we know it's going to go down as one of the greatest trilogy of matches in professional wrestling history. And we will see Luke Jacobs wrestle Tomohiro Ishii with the undisputed British Heavyweight Championship on the line.
Yeah, it's going to be great, isn't it? I don't really do much to try and sell it. We've got the evidence of two previous encounters between the pair. Unlike normal rivalries, often when you see trilogies of matches, it's normally when it's tied 1-1 and we need a rubber match to reach a conclusion. So we've got a decisive winner from the series. But this trilogy is very different in that fact because Luke Jacobs has been defeated by Tomohiro Ishii not once, not twice, but twice, sorry. He's not been able to solve the puzzle of the Stone Pitbull, who's one of the most unorthodox wrestlers there is. But Luke Jacobs, after defeat the first time, he was so confident and so sure of himself. He really felt in his heart of hearts he had what it took to defeat Tomohiro Ishii. He had the answers to the questions posed of him. And he was so, anyone who spoke to him going into that match at Uprising last year, they would have seen a very, very confident Luke Jacobs. In his mind, it was almost a foregone conclusion that he was going to defeat Ishii. And he didn't. And I believe it was that frustration that spurred him on. If you think about our first show at the start of the year again, it was Luke Jacobs who came out and viciously attacked JJ Gale. I think, in fact, was at the conclusion of JJ Gale and Callum Newman. I think I may have been aging their singles match by a year. But yeah, it just everything kind of molds into one and time kind of flies somewhat. But yeah, like he laid out JJ Gale and he made a statement about, this is my year. I'm going to end it the undisputed British heavyweight champion, win, lose or draw. I'm fed up of, these imports being the special attraction. I'm just as good, if not better, than any single person that has stepped foot in a Revolution Pro Wrestling ring, past, present, or future. And I'm going to prove it. I'm going to carve my own legacy. And that starts with winning the undisputed British Heavyweight Championship. However, Luke Jacobs knows if he's going to cement his legacy and legitimacy as the undisputed British Heavyweight Champion, he's going to have to do the one thing that he's been unable to do in the past, and that's defeat Tomohiro Ishii. And we saw how it got to Luke Jacobs with the thought that JJ Gale might be able to beat him to the punch in that regard. And he will have seen Ishii almost level up again against JJ Gale, and he may well be worried. We've seen him in recent weeks going up against the likes of Jay Joshua and Joshua James, not to be confused with one another. He has deliberately chosen opponents that are stylistically like that. He saw JJ Gale use Jay Joshua in preparation for another JJ Gale, in preparation for the contest with Ishii, and he took a page out of his book. JJ Gale, you know, however you look at it, JJ Gale came close. But, you know, as a famous commentator once said, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, you know, and it was Ishii who walked away the victor. And Tomohiro Ishii would love to become undisputed British heavyweight champion again. And defeats Luke Jacobs, the path becomes clear. He's the champion. He will compete against the winner of Michael Oku and Ricky Knight Jr. in another first-time match. So, again, like I say, whatever way this one rolls out, the result of this one is going to be very exciting in regards to the future of Revolution Pro Wrestling. Will Luke Jacobs be able to handle the weight of expectation, the pressure on his shoulders as the undisputed British heavyweight champion, walking out last? You know, he did it at the anniversary show. He rode his wave of emotions at the anniversary show and became the champion. Now he's looking to add, like I say, the legitimacy on that reign, and that legitimacy will come when he proves he can defeat Tomohiro Ishii. But, you know, Ishii's a stubborn man. Ishii doesn't care about fairy tales. Ishii doesn't care about happy endings. You know, Ishii would love nothing more than to defeat Luke Jacobs and to become the champion once again. It's the most prestigious championship gold in the whole of Europe. The best wrestlers in the world contest to get over it. The eyes of the wrestling world will be on the Doncaster Dome this Saturday, and I can't wait.
And neither can I. It's going to be a special journey to Doncaster. The fans of Revolution Pro Wrestling have asked for a show in the north of England for a long, long time, and you could not have delivered a more stacked card, a more special event, and such a unique combination of matches. This Saturday, the 19th of October at Doncaster Dome, of tickets available at revolutionprowrestling.com. The live stream will be available at revproondemand.com, and we hope to see you there.